So now that we have basically learned how to work with sequencer, now we're gonna move into some details about the camera. So there is few ways to create a camera, and one would be directly in the sequencer. You can just click create new camera, and if you also add the camera that is created into your sequence. But we're gonna click and create here and go to cinematic and create assigned camera actor. As you can see, it automatically puts us in a scene and gives us this little preview window. But we want to look through the eyes of the camera, and to do that, let's click on perspective and then assign camera actor. This basically lets us pilot the character, and we can also unpilot it if we want, and also just disable this view. Now that we have the camera created, let's go to details and scroll down and see some settings. So first setting is look at tracking. So we enable look at tracking, and let's click something in the scene, maybe this car. Basically what happens is that this actor is trying to track right now. I think it's tracking something else, so we can just disable it, but it's tracking some point in the scene, and when you rotate it should try to snap to that basically. So you can see when I try to move now, it's a bit janky when you are moving in the viewport, but after when you play your sequence and the camera is animated, let's say, or the object is animated, to look smooth. And you can debug stuff here. You can put the interpolation speed so it kind of lags behind, so there is some time before it catches up basically. You can also offset this, so maybe you want to track an object, but you maybe want, let's say you want to track a human, but you want to track the point at his head, but the midpoint is maybe at his chest, so you would move this a bit up, something like that. You can also allow roll, and that's just look at track settings. So let's actually disable this so we can easily move around in the scene. Later, after that, we have this film back, which is basically sensor width and height. This will kind of determine what type of camera you're using. So you could use like some sensors of the real world cameras, or you can just customize it. You can basically put anything in here, and you can see the black bars that are created for this to kind of show you what's happening. And of course you can disable the bars here, or also you can disable the constraint aspect ratio. After that we have the lens, and this is just f-stops, so focal length min and max. This you won't use much. I usually don't use that much, but if you go to focus settings here, you have stuff that you're going to use a lot, and that is basically where your focus is at. So if I put this to, let's say, 100, we can see that the focus is right up close to the camera. And if I zoom in, you can see that now we see this part of the car in focus. And to actually see what we're doing while focusing, we can click on this draw debug plane, which basically shows us this. Let me actually move this back a bit, which basically shows us this dark purple line, and on that line, that is the point where objects are most in focus. So using this, we can basically figure out what we want to be in focus and not. And also another option that we have is manual tracking. So let's see if we have some point. So most objects in the scene are kind of grouped together, so it's kind of hard to find just one thing. As you can see, all of the cars also. So I'm going to try to find something. Maybe actually we can just try to find static mesh and put it in a scene so we can more easily work with this tracking. So if I go to the camera, so we have it already imported here, and let's click on track focus settings, and in here I can basically select any object in a scene, and now this object will always be in focus. As you can see, it also depends if it will be some parts of it will be in focus, because the point that is most in focus is this point, and we can see this if we click on the draw debug tracking. So that point is kind of most in focus. So if you focus really hard, you can see this part becomes blurry, because yeah, the line at this point is basically in focus. So this one is really useful feature. And also, let's say, let's go back with this, and let's say you want the focus to be somewhere in the middle. For that, you could use this a relative offset to basically move it around and select which point you want to actually be in focus. So now we have this part in focus and everything else is blurred. So yeah, that's kind of how you can manipulate focus basically for your needs. The next thing is, yeah, smooth focus changes. This is if you don't want, let's say the camera is moving really fast around and maybe you don't want to focus just quickly changes from frame to frame, but you maybe want some smooth focal offset. So you could use this. It will basically kind of lag behind, similar to like Luca tracking. If let's say you are trying to create a perspective of the human watching someone kind of passes by quickly, for Luca tracking you can use lag, so it kind of the object passes and then you have some delay before the camera moves, and you can use similar thing for focus. Maybe something is coming quickly towards the camera and whoever is operating the camera doesn't have the time to quickly exactly focus on that, something like that. So you could use these smooth focus changes or interpolation in looking at track. Next things that are important in here would be post-process settings. So in here you basically can change the look of your camera per camera. So if you have 5 cameras in the scene, each camera can have different effects. So you have your lens, so here we can see exposure, we can increase it and decrease it. You can also change stuff like minimum and maximum exposure and speed up. So you notice probably when I changed, it doesn't go instantly to black or white, it kind of takes some time. That is basically the speed up, and you can also use some other options to kind of customize how you want your exposure. You can also play with bloom, so this is kind of the shine in your scene becomes blurry. You get this type of effect, and if you disable it, you can see what basically happens. So that's some lens effects. You have color grading. This is important to get a feel for your scene. Maybe you want something darker and moody, you would use maybe contrast. Make it something like this. Use gamma, so you have all of this control. And also, if you already are familiar with some camera options, they're trying to kind of give you some options with that maybe filmmakers are already familiar with, so you don't have to kind of use this more like image editing techniques. So yeah, that's kind of the basics of the cameras. And in the next video, we're gonna go over a camera rail system and start actually animating the camera.